In this video, I want to talk about mind maps, which are an excellent way to generate ideas for any design. So just as a review about design in general, when it's more conceptual, you're trying to get these three things to be different. The verbal to say one thing, the visual to show something different, and then your viewer has to put the two together to finally get the message. And I say finally, I mean it happens within seconds, but it makes for very interesting design. Most of the time, we designers are given the verbal from our client. So it might be, hey, your so-and-so writer just put together an article called Camping the Rockies. Design a three-page spread, and especially the first page spread for the magazine needs to really capture the user's attention. What are you going to do? Or you're designing a CD by a band called Cattleface. Their CD is called Twin Skies. It's a logo for a company called Bikes on Town. So what we would do if we can't come up with ideas instantly, which especially at the beginning is very hard to do. The good news is once you push yourself through exercises like a mind map, often you just make the new brain connections that you need to start generating new ideas, and it becomes easier and easier down the road. So let me just show you some examples of mind maps. So I just typed in mind maps in Google Images, and you can see some people put the time to make them very beautiful. It usually depends on what people are doing. Sometimes people do them in the computer. Sometimes they're just strictly done by hand. As a designer, most of the time when I see people do them, they're just doing them by hand. They grab as big of a piece of paper as they can find laying around, so like an 11 by 17. They start out with one of the keywords right in the middle and just branch off of that, and then start making little mini branches once you get to a key thing. So off of time management for this person, they had this thing, and then these words went with it. Good visual. So you start with one of the keywords here, and then any idea or word that makes you think of this word, you start over here, and then any word that makes you think of that word, you start putting over here, and then all of a sudden a new word jumps in your mind, so you write it over here, branch off of that. You could even have branch ideas off of this word. And the whole purpose, but you don't even want to think about this at first, just flush out words. But the purpose later is that you might go over here and find something, and then look way over here and see something, and you're like, this along with that. Now that is a great idea, and it allows you to come up with something that if you just sat there and said, I'm going to think about ideas, never would have popped in your head. It's just two unrelated things or almost unrelated things come together, and you're like, yeah, I just never would have thought of that otherwise. So what word or phrase you decide to put in the middle really depends on what you're doing. So if you have this article called Camping the Rockies, you'd probably start with Rockies in the middle, and then maybe put camping next to it, and then just start thinking of every word that reminds you of the Rockies and keep branching off of there, and then go back to like camping that you'd put over here and start thinking of every word you can to go with camping, and then all the other words. If you're doing it for the Word Power project in my class, it's both the good thing and the bad thing is you're not stuck to a particular topic. So you could put any word in the middle, and the idea of doing the mind map is just to start writing out words. It's just a way to get started. So in one way, that's the easiest when you don't have a concept or a word to build your concept from, but to some people it's very daunting. So just pick any word, pick your favorite word, and then when you're done an hour later after you wrote out a zillion words on that page, just start looking at words that maybe could have substitution done to a word in them. as you're doing the mind map, you don't want to be critical at all. Don't think, oh, that's a stupid word, or that doesn't have anything to do with this. You just keep writing things down and keep writing things down that remind you of the words that you just wrote and words that you wrote in other places. And I'll do one roughly here so you can kind of see what I'm talking about in a little bit better detail. But you just keep writing, not analyzing. After you filled the page, that's when you can start to look for opportunities, such as the two words from different areas on the page that you can combine together. So as you can see, there's many different ways to do them. I would never try to make your mind map pretty because that could slow you down, but some people just can't help themselves. Their mind maps look beautiful. Mine never do. Mine are just like pencil on paper, but they have, for me, brought up some very good ideas in the past. So let's look at an example. Okay, just to make exampling easier, because I can't write very well with my mouse pad on this computer, I will use Illustrator. I'd probably never actually work like this in a real world situation. And let's just say that we have a company called Wind Power, and we are making a logo for them. So I would start with Wind Power in the middle, and I wouldn't make it too big because I want to have a lot of room to write down words. And so what I'm going to do is branch off of Wind Power and write down words that remind me right away of wind power. So I might have a start something like this with the very obvious, breaking wind and power into two. Now, never forget that research is your best friend. So obviously you want to know what wind power does, who their competitors are, all that kind of stuff. But we're just strictly getting to mind maps here. So let's just pretend that wind power makes, wind or energy generating windmills. So then off of power, I'm going to start writing all the things that remind me of power. And like I said, don't try to limit yourself in any way. Like SCC, that's obviously a silly idea. SCE actually, Southern California Edison. What would that have to do with this? You don't care. It's just whatever pops into your head. Light bulb, electrical outlet, electrical plug, a lightning bolt, electric bill, AC, and then electric bill just reminded me of money. Okay, because it's been expensive lately, running the AC. And then I go over to wind and I write down everything that reminds me of wind, like wavy lines, a bent tree, a hurricane, rain, cold, and maybe even wavy lines. I want to draw the wavy lines in. If there's any visuals that you can put in there to help you, great. Wind power also made me think of farm, like a wind farm, and then farm made me think of cows, farmer, milk crop, Rosa crop versus Rosa windmill. Now there I'm kind of starting to go for an idea because I just thought, oh, Rosa crop, Rosa windmills, but I'm not going to slow down and think about it. It's just a possible idea, and then I went on to continue with barn, pigs, and then I had kind of another idea like pig wasting energy, and I just thought of for wind. Wind, adding driving wind, and then driving made me think of car and related electric car, Tesla, and then off of car, again, I don't want to limit myself to things. So if I think of a steering wheel of a car, I'll just write it down: wheels, tires, battery. But maybe in the back of my mind, I'm thinking maybe there's some kind of connection. We could turn a windmill into a car. I don't, again, this is going through my brain in just a little electric flash. I'm not going to start thinking about these things yet, but I'm just telling you, kind of, you can't help it sometimes. So if a bit of an idea does pop in your head, you may want to just draw it down, but keep searching, scanning this mind map, looking for more things to write down. And then some more things popped in my head over dealing with power. What did I do? I said, went off of lightning bolt, and I said AC/DC. I know it's a rock band. Should I be writing stuff like that down on here? I'm not going to stop myself. And I thought they had an album called Power Age, one called For Those About to Rock, High Energy, Guitars. And then off of guitars, I put electric guitars, power amps, shredding. And then off of electric guitars, I put power strips, power supplies, batteries, surge protectors.
uh, and some of the things relate back to wind power and electricity. It just made me think, hey, I haven't written down electricity as just a side branch from wind power. And then that made me think of the power grid and wasting electricity and lights and TV and my sound system, all things that use electricity. And wasting electricity made me think about being green and conservation made me think of recycling. And for sake of demonstration, I'll stop here. But in reality, I'd probably go on for an hour and pretty much fill this whole page up. But let's just move on to what the next step might be. So far we have tried to limit ourselves a little bit from generating ideas or jumping to conclusions, but now what we might want to do is go through with some colored pencils and just start circling words that have to do with each other from different parts of the map, or that we could possibly put together. One thing that catches my eye here is the word recycle and the cycle of that word, and then the windmill itself, thinking about the circular blades. Maybe there's a combination there that you could do with the recycle sign. So I'm just going to actually draw this down here in the same color. I'm not doing a very great drawing, but tying that in with the actual blades on the windmill. Stop to research that idea to see if someone already thought of it. I'm just going to move on. I like the idea of electrical plug with maybe the base of the windmill. Could I have the base of the windmill and either there is an electrical outlet, which ties right into that idea, or at the base could there be a plug coming out, and maybe that ties right into the typography. And I want to think there's some kind of idea brewing over here, and especially if this was a logo that was going to be animated. So again, you got to do your research, find out what the budget is, but just think of the possibilities here with the steering wheel, the wheels, and the tires on the car rolling around on maybe an electric car, and it somehow forms the blades on the windmill. So sometimes when you have too many ideas, things coming together here, it's just not going to work for a logo, but you got to think, is there a broader campaign? Maybe I could tie these together. Is there a way that I could give a wheel of a car in this? I don't know yet, right? But that's not what's important right now. The important thing is right now, I started out with no ideas, and so far, just on this sparsely populated mind map, I have 3 possibilities that I could spin off on for my project. And if they're not good enough, I just do another mind map and another one. And one of the best things, I learned this from my grandpa, is push your mind right before you go to sleep, and you would be surprised how often you'll still get a good night's sleep, but your subconscious mind is working away for you for free. And you might wake up in the middle of the night with the best idea ever. So keep something like your phone that you can record or write ideas on. And then it's just worth mentioning here that, like I say, you're doing the word power project with me, then of course there's nothing to research. But anything else where you actually have a topic, you're working for the zoo, you're working for this wind power company, you're going to find out everything about the company, you're going to find out everything about the industry, about their competitors, and it doesn't matter whether it's a school project or a real project, doing a maximum amount of research will really show up in the final project.